For those of you who haven't seen my previous Bionicle reviews, I'll explain what Bionicle is. It was a very popular toy franchise that lasted for almost a decade. The toys were meant to resemble humanoid warriors with distinct powers. It spawned a series of comics and over 4 movies. Bionicle 3: Web of Shadows is the third Bionicle film, that's set after the climax of the second film. The story follows the lead characters as they are trapped in a poisonous web by an evil king and his fiancée Rudaka. The web transforms the heroes into disfigured versions of themselves with new powers, and slowly builds a venom inside them. Meanwhile, Rudaka intends on using the Bionicle heroes' elemental powers to resurrect Makuta, the villain from the first and second Bionicle movies. So, what did I think of Bionicle 3? Well, it's certainly far better than its predecessors. In fact, it's a decent effort. However, it is laced with some notable flaws.
For starters, it's never fully explained what the web really is, and this should have been explored, because it influences the film's story so much. Its effects are loosely explained, but the web itself seems to go ignored.
Another thing about the film that bugged me was how the king's fiancée often had an unclear motive at times. One moment she'd insist that the Toa, who are the heroic leads of this film, should be used as the king's minions, but then next she'd be demanding for the Toa to be killed. Her motives really confused me at times. Does she need the Toa or not? I also once again couldn't tolerate most of the protagonists because they remained obnoxious or boring as characters, just like the previous film. Their relationships never develop yet again, and they spend half the film arguing and complaining. Despite its flaws, I have plenty of praise to give this film. I really like how uncomfortable the Toa feel in their new bodies. They feel almost violated to be mutated into new shells. Also, the most interesting effect from the web's poison is that it changes the Toa's leader, Vakama, into a rabid animal with primal instincts. And this surprisingly fuels a cool story arc for Vakama, as he becomes a lone wolf briefly until he's seduced into serving the king's fiancée. It's also a believable arc, because Vakama spends most of the first act doubting his abilities as a leader, and this self-doubt makes him vulnerable towards Rudaka's manipulation. Leadership becomes a consistent theme in the film as Rudaka introduces sociopathic methods of leadership to Vakama. While Bionicle 2 barely even scratched its message of unity, Bionicle 3 does a good job at having an interesting perspective on the theme of leadership. Once again, their best rendering efforts go towards making characters look shiny and detailed, while props and sets come across as plastic or lazily textured. Also, much like the previous films, the animation is outshined by the strength of the colourful visual effects. The voice acting is acceptable, but Kathleen Barr stands out from the cast with a malevolent take on the vocals of Rudaka. Much like the first 2 Bionicle films, the music is outstanding with its grand orchestral pieces, but it's given a more sinister approach to fit the dark tone of the film. In fact, Bionicle 3 is a very dark entry for the series. There are many scenes that are quite unsettling for a children's movie.
Which is far from a bad thing, because just like adults, kids love the adrenaline of being scared.
To conclude, Bionicle 3: Web of Shadows is a reasonably good film, and a huge improvement compared to the first 2 Bionicle movies. Sure, it has its problems and it's far from anything special, but this time the filmmakers actually tried to be coherent and interesting with their script. Now, you may be thinking, hang on Jambareeqi, you're raising the bar quite high for these Bionicle movies. They're essentially feature-length toy commercials, so why are you expecting anything better than what's being given? You see, I expect hard effort from every movie or series that I watch. Every film's idea is like a seed, and it's how you grow the seed that counts. You can take the ugliest of seeds and grow them into something beautiful. I mean, even the silliest of ideas can be improved upon by a film's execution. Whenever you make a movie, it's best to take advantage of what you've been given to create something that exceeds the intention of the original idea. My point being, the storytellers of the Bionicle movies cannot blame their source material for their lack of substance or passion at times. Just because these Bionicle movies were based on the idea of selling a line of toys does not give the writers any excuse to be half-assed with their scripts. It's important to take into account the amount of television commercials that actually have strong stories or messages. Some TV adverts could even possibly work as standalone short films due to the effort put into them.
Therefore, the Bionicle movies have no excuse to be half-arsed just because their series is based on the idea of selling a toy line.
Every idea that's born has the possibility of being evolved into something good or even something outstanding. So of course I'm expecting these Bionicle movies to try just as hard as any other brand of film.